Hey, everyone. Welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. We've got a very distinguished guest today. He was raised in North Delta, BC, over 250 kilometers away from his ancestral home on Vancouver Island. He was raised as your average everyday suburbanite, and it wasn't until he was 8 years old that he discovered his true heritage. Later in life, this discovery would be the conceptual focal point that helped launch his unique art practice. Please join me in welcoming Sonny Assu. Welcome, Sonny.
Hey, Thomas. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Are you ready for 20 questions?
Let's go.
Okay, here we go. Number one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, my name is Sonny Assu. I am Likwata of the Kwakwaka'wakw Nations. I am both Wewakai and Wewakam. I currently live in Kamatau, which is otherwise known as Campbell River, BC. I'm living here on the territory of my ancestors in the house that my grandmother built, and I am an artist.
I'm having a bit of what is it, like celebrity feeling now, because I remember being at an opening at the Vancouver Art Gallery and you were there, and I told my friend who was with me that I have to get a picture with you. And
yeah,
that was a real special time for me.
Oh, right on. That's so cool. Yeah, I remember meeting you there. It was super nice. Yeah, I met you with your friends. And yeah, that was for my exhibits. We Come to Witness in dialogue with Emily Carr. That was a very high point of my career so far. And it was really exciting to have an exhibit there and to meet fellow artists like yourself.
I also saw your work at the SAM in Seattle, the Seattle Art Museum there. And that was a great one as well. Okay, yeah. Number two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Whoa, that's a good question. Art-wise or just like in general?
It can be either or both.
I'm a giant nerd. I mean, when it comes down to my arts and life, I'm just a giant nerd. I think, and that is reflective in a lot of the work that I do, especially recently with the work that revolves around pop culture. Yeah, I think that's probably, a piece of knowledge that makes me different from, everybody else. I guess it does make me different, but it doesn't make me different because there's lots of nerds out there, and nerdy collector culture is coming into its own right now. But I think in terms of being a contemporary artist, melding my pop roots with my Likwatau culture and identity, that's definitely makes me different and unique in ways.
And just for the audience, I guess being in the art world and being a big nerd, as you say, is something kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's interesting to see how it's being more looked at and embraced now. When I think about my career over these past 20 years, when I started doing what I do, I was one of the first ones that was really embracing pop culture and Indigenous identity. But now seeing various artists work within those confines of pop culture and identity, whether it's Indigenous identity or settler identity or whatever it may be, it's interesting to see that trajectory grow and develop within the discourse of art.
Fantastic. I love it. So number three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do this? Because I am crazy and I'm a sucker for punishment. No, I mean, I love being an artist. I think it's a really interesting and unique way to carry yourself through life. It gives you the ability to understand the world in a greater context. And I really want to understand how the world works and how people work and how I can communicate with people and how I can challenge people's beliefs, political beliefs and assumptions, particularly around Indigenous issues and identity. And I do it because I love it.
That's great. Thanks for that. That makes sense. Number four, what does your future look like?
Oh man, hopefully getting old, fatter. No, I don't want to get fatter. Yeah, I think I'm a dad. I've got 3 kids. My present and future is looking towards them, just seeing them grow, watching them thrive and flourish, and becoming the unique individuals they're meant to become. And other than that, I just want to keep making arts, for the rest of my life.
Perfect. I'm excited to hear your response to this one. So number 5 is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I spent the majority of my life in the lower mainlands of British Columbia, grew up in the suburbs, went to school in Vancouver. I think the city and the suburban culture played a big part of my identity when I was younger, in my 20s and early 30s. But now I'm living back home, on my reserve, on my community, surrounded by my family, surrounded by my ancestors. This is the homeland of my people. And I think what's really beautiful about where I am now is that I get to work, walk, and wake where my ancestors did. Being able just to walk down to the beach and the shore and just know that I'm standing where an ancestor stood it's a really beautiful experience. And it really fulfills me in ways for my cultural and my identity. And it fuels me for my art. So it's just a really beautiful place to be living.
I love that. Number 6, if you had to start from scratch, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Oh man, what would I give myself if I could travel back in time without disrupting the timeline too much? Yeah, don't get wrapped up in drama. I think that's the biggest thing. I think we are social beings, and we live our lives in such a way that we're always surrounded by emotions and drama. So, if I can go back to my early 20s and just say, hey, man, look, what you're going through right now in terms of your emotions and mental states, set that stuff aside, or actually go out and talk to somebody. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just, hey, step up, go talk to some people, figure out your shit, and then go on with your life.
Great. I think our audience will probably be excited to hear about number 7. What's a day in your life like?
What's a day in my life like? Well, it's dad life for sure, 100%. I get that stuff out of the way in the morning, and I have about 6 hours in the studio just to work, which is really great. I try and break that up by going for a walk and chilling out with my dog. Like I said, I live up here in Campbell River, which is on northern Vancouver Island. It's just a beautiful place to be living. Being able just to step out and walk down to the beach or walk into a forest and just, get some good fresh air is really beneficial. But other than that, I just like to, get up and take care of the kids and come into the studio and work when I can. Whether that's on paintings or planning out new sculptures or doing some design work, it's just really fulfilling.
Great, that's a super answer. Okay, so number 8, lifelong learning is a popular topic these days. How do you stay up to date?
Yeah, the internet. The internet keeps me up to date. In terms of the work that I do. I like just to be able to see what's out there, what people are doing, and how it can inform me and inform the work that I do. Whether, like I said, whether it's my visual art practice or the design work that I do. I just love being able to go onto this resource tool and learn as much as I can.
Great. So number 9, maybe a bit more on the internet. What tools do you use? Are you a digital nomad, or are you pen and paper?
I'm all of those things. I definitely I love to work on the computer. I love to do design work. I see design work as something that's very fluid. I approach a lot of my art making on the computer with a design aesthetic as well. So I use a lot of Adobe Illustrator, a little bit of Photoshop. I'm getting into Procreate on my iPads. But sometimes I just get sick of being in front of a screen all the time. So whipping out the pen and the paper or the pencil and the paper is something that I love to do. I'm a collector of a lot of different things, and I love to also collect and use materials. So I'm very big on nice pens and pencils. Something that I just, has a nice weight to it. In terms of pencil, I love to be able to have something. I love a mechanical pencil, but something that's a little bit more beefy and has an elegance to it is definitely gives me a sense of working that elegance into the work that I do.
Halfway there, number 10, how do you deal with work-life balance?
That is a constant struggle. I think, yeah, like I said, my studio is in a house, so the work-life balance can be fairly off balance at times. But it's great, it's a good way to be off balance when, you're worrying about, having fun with your kids and doing cool things. I think for me, just being able to, find some downtime outside of working in the studio and outside of, hanging out with the kids and the family. The downtime with my wife in the evening is great. But also alone time is also equally as awesome. So I play a lot of video games that kind of keep me just sane.
Nice. 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
That's a good one. I was big into arts when I was a kid. So a lot of visual arts and theater, and I was in the choir for a while. When I started thinking about going to post-secondary school in my early 20s, it was a toss-up between theater school and art school. And art school won me over back then. I think if I wasn't an artist, I would have probably pursued some kind of performance career, acting, either theater or in the film and TV industry, perhaps. Vancouver is big for that, right? So it's something. It was also a big dream of mine to be, on TV or the movies, because there was such a distinct connection to Hollywood North. So yeah, I think I might have been an actor.
Interesting to hear. Number 12, what would you not like to do career-wise?
What would I not like to do? Wow. Sell myself out.
It's a good one. Short and sweet. Number 13, what's your favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Favorite word, quote, or sentence? Oh, well, I think the quote that sticks with me most right now is something that I use for a concept of one of my series called The Paradise Syndrome. And it's a quote that I saw here at the Campbell River Museum in their history of the area dioramas, where you kind of walk through First Nations, and then you walk through the encounter with settlers. Anyways, in the encounter with settlers area, there is this photograph of a surveyor's tools and some Indigenous men kind of standing around looking at it. And there's a quote from a Hupswith man, and the Hupswith people are from southwestern Vancouver Island. And he said, "They make invisible lines on the land that only they can see." And that was in response to the surveyor mapping out the boundaries of his reserve. It's not inspirational or, something that's going to get you up and going. It's just something that's really interesting to think about, and how this place called Canada came to be.
Great. What's your least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Oh, least favorite word, quote, or sentence. I don't know. Like, I can't really think of anything. A lot of people say moist, but I say moist all the time just because it's funny because it makes people uncomfortable. I don't think I have one.
Okay, that's good. Number 15, if you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would you choose?
Giant. I've been described as a rugby player in some articles about my work before, and it's hilarious.
We'll put that in the show notes. Number 16, what keeps you up at night?
Oh man, am I doing everything okay? Am I okay?
What's a dream you're chasing?
Dream I'm chasing. Oh, I'm living my dream. I'm constantly chasing it.
Love it. Final stretch, number 18, what inspires you?
My family, my community, my culture, my friends.
Any advice you'd like to share?
Forget everything you learned at art school.
And
well, not everything, but certain things.
and 20, which is the one we're all awaiting. How can our listeners keep tabs on you? How can we follow you? How do we keep up to date with what you're doing?
Yeah, I saw that question, and that, it's a good one and an obvious one for sure. I've been trying to step away from social media for a while just because I see it as a very toxic echo chamber, especially Facebook. So I try not to engage on there very much, but people could find me on Instagram at Sonny Assu. I don't do Twitter that much anymore, but I'm at Sonny Assu there as well. But I like to try and steer people as much as I can to my website, sonnyassu.com. Yeah. And the Equinox Gallery in Vancouver, I work with them, and Art Mirror in Montreal.
Well, thank you so much, Sonny. This has been super great. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. I think, our in terms of content, our listeners will really appreciate the Indigenous, but also, growing up in the suburbs and then building a life from there. I think it's super inspiring. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for having me on, Thomas. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.